Welcome to the Binge Breakers podcast. I'm Jacqueline. I am here to teach you how I overcame bulimia and my binge eating disorder, and how you can too. Through simple steps of mind management, repairing your relationship with yourself, understanding your habits, and intuitive eating.
Disclaimer, this recording is not intended to be used as medical advice, nor is it advice from a doctor. I am a coach, a recovery coach, and I offer advice from my own experience and my clients. But please, if you think you are in need of medical help, seek it immediately. We'll also be talking about subjects such as binging and purging, depression, and other sensitive topics. So if those trigger you, please listen at your own discretion.
Hey everyone listening. Today we have a special guest, one of my clients I've been working with for the past, we worked together for technically not even 6 months. We've been working together for longer than 6 months because we've had space in between the last few coaching calls, but probably I'd say collectively like 8 months or so. But this client has just come such a long way, and I'd say she went through quite a transformation of being someone when she started and then to here, and she just had a lot of value and wisdom to share. And she said, I'd love to be on the podcast. And I was like, oh my gosh, please be on the podcast. So she's here with us. Welcome. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. And Jacqueline, thank you for letting me be on. I'm super excited to have this space to kind of chat with you about this whole journey.
Yeah. Let's just dive in. And I think a good question to ask people that kind of catches them off guard, but is deep, is kind of what's something that you weren't expecting to happen during this journey, but you're so happy that it did?
I didn't expect it to be a journey that brought in other parts of my life. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have a professional career in higher education, and every area of myself was affected for the better. And I just didn't think it would be so encompassing of everything else. I thought it was just going to be me and my eating and my own little struggle I've had for so long, but it wasn't. It was so much more.
Yeah. I think for me, I've seen it before, but it always surprises me how much it's not about the food, and how much when you start changing your relationship with food, everything else changes. And I think something I've noticed about you, you were already, I want to make it really clear, this person with a big life and doing lots of things, like very ambitious, going to school and all these things, while also being a mom and also having a job and also taking care of dogs and all this sort of stuff. But I think what really stood out to me is how you started speaking up a lot more for your needs, started setting firmer boundaries, and started putting yourself first and being a lot more confident with yourself, regardless of body size or food or anything like that. Like, you just started putting you on the front lines in a good way, rather than only like taking care of yourself as leftovers. Like, you became more of a priority
Absolutely.
in your life.
I think that was, for me, I needed someone to tell me that. I needed to believe it. Because when you are a mom to young children and you have a husband who is going through his own transitions, or you have a partner that's going through their own transitions, it's really easy to forget your needs and who you are, and to let someone else speak for you. And I think that when I finally vocalized some of these needs that I think I suppressed because of my food issues, because of binging and purging and just my body issues, when I finally started to speak up to what those needs were in whatever space I was in, particularly with family, I think was when the healing really started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think you could stop the behaviors and stuff fully without really being open about yourself and what you needed, for sure. Otherwise, those, like, your behaviors, and I was going to ask you, where were you, where do you feel like you were before? But I feel like your behaviors very much so were a self-soothing tactic, like a way to just cope
Absolutely.
at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I mean, I just remember, we just talked about this with how last week went, just you have a whole week of shit, like every possible thing. Your kids are sick, you had to take leave you didn't really even have, issues with your husband, like your spouse, like for me, fight with my husband, family stressors, and Friday comes around and the week is over, but also not over. But Friday is decompression. And that's when all the bad habits would start. And it was soothing. It was like this ritual I would have for myself. Not just on Fridays, it was other days of the week, but the soothingness and but it wasn't. It was so bad. It was so unhealthy. And that's when I came to you, when it became too much for me. But the behaviors were just such a crutch.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think your pattern was like either overeating at the end of the day or it was full-blown binging and purging and like also not having meals or food regularly prepared. It's not even that you're hardcore meal prepper now, but like not having any other convenient foods that are going to be fueling for you during the day. And then that behavior would come in and like over drinking too. And what my client's referring to, those guys that are listening, last week, she sent me a text on Friday, I think it was, or Saturday, but
Yep.
just like it was this cute picture of like this glass of wine and these two, I forget what type of cookies were they?
They were the London Fog Milano cookies. I don't know, like
Yeah.
they just looked so good. But yes, those
Yeah. So like two London Fog Milano cookies, and I think there was some grapes. It was very
great.
fancy, I thought. I was like, ooh, but it was, and she was out on her porch, and I don't remember exactly what you said, like word for word, but I know you said, you know, I allowed myself to have this and to give myself a treat and to enjoy this, but it doesn't have to be a whole bottle of wine. It doesn't have to be the whole package of cookies. It doesn't have to be binge and purge, and I'm just enjoying this. And that was something unique about your journey is I think for a while you're like, I shouldn't drink alcohol at all. I shouldn't have these things at all. I should just go keto. I should just, but now it seems like you're much more, no, I can soothe with food sometimes. I can enjoy myself with food, but I get to choose it and I can have these moments without it being full-blown toxic binging and purging behavior. And that's really beautiful.
No, absolutely. And it's because so much of what I struggled with was, okay, I'm gonna go and get, but what for whatever reason, whether I just was like super hungry because I just craving, period cravings, whatever. I'm gonna go get all these cookies, or I'm gonna get this bottle of wine, and it's Friday or whatever day of the week, and I'm just going to go to town. And then there would be a point where I really, really, like, I went to the city and I just consumed it all, felt guilty and purged, and didn't enjoy the cookies, didn't enjoy the wine. It was just so it wasn't true enjoyment. I ate and then I purged, and it was all of that. And then the guilt came in, and the guilt was there the whole time. There was nothing truly happy about that experience. I didn't get to enjoy the food that people get because they want to enjoy that food. I didn't enjoy it. And
Mhm.
Friday, I had all those similar stressors, just long week. Mom guilt, that's the other thing. I didn't get to be with my kids at a important school event that I had planned on because work crept in, and I felt like absolute shit. And then just work shit. I work in education, and sometimes you deal with craziness. And I was shopping and I was getting some stuff for my family, and I saw those cookies, and I'm like, you know what? I passed these before. I said I wanted them. I resisted, and I was proud of that. I'm like, no, like, what's wrong with having that? And then you and I had both been really talking about drinking for me the past few months and how that was a trigger. And we had decided that it would be good for me to really keep it at bay, and only really drink in social occasions, like a work event or a party or something, and
Mhm.
keep it at bay. And I was feeling so good about it, but I was just like, man, a freaking glass of rosé just like hits right now. Like I don't
Yeah.
I don't need it to feel better. I was like, damn, I just want a crisp fresh glass of rosé, and oh look, like I'm a Les Mis just crazy I love it in all of its forms. I'm such a dork. I will blast that shit in my car. And it had a character. I was like, you know what? This is it. Like, this is a sign I just need a glass. So I came
Mm.
home and my dog, and I was outside, and I portioned everything. I put it all out, and I just loved that moment. I was like, actually, the weather, I live in Texas. It's not say it doesn't feel like Satan's front porch right now. It was
It's
just
the
the
perfect weather
rain
right
was
now.
coming. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And it just everything was right. And that wine took me what I mean, I am like I can drink like if it's not something to be proud of, but yeah, I can put food and alcohol down, and that
I
wine
think everyone
probably took
listening to
me.
this podcast can relate, so you
Yes, I
don't feel
think
bad
we
about
all
that.
can
Yeah.
say what we can do, or
Hmm.
that wine took me an hour, and it wasn't even intentional. I was just enjoying the moment. And I think that's when I texted you, because I was like, I'm about to cry. And I texted my sister, and I told her that too. And
Oh.
it was, I'm excited because I'm going to have more moments like that. But more importantly, for me, like, sure, was there a little guilt? Was there that voice in the back of my head that it's like, you're not supposed to be drinking. You said you wouldn't be drinking. Why are you drinking? Or, why are you eating these cookies? You already had an indulgence today. Why are you indulging more? And I think it's not that I don't know how to describe it. Like, I just pushed the voice down. I mean, because it's not me. It's not who I am right now. It's not who I want to be. It's not who I've worked really hard to be. But it was managing, and it was managing that persistent voice that I've had for 15 years. I'm 32. I've been dealing with this since middle school.
Mhm.
So maybe longer than that. And anyway,
Well, I
I'm
think
just
that,
rambling.
yeah, no, you're not rambling. I think it was a really important story to share because you highlighted a lot of things. One, things like there's still work to be done. And I think sometimes people want like people to come on and be like, look, I'll never ever struggle again. And I like that you said like there still will be moments like this. There's still like some guilt to work through sometimes. And I still have not a perfect life and there's still things I need to work through. But I've gotten to this point, and for me, I think it's from the fact that you've had little moments of really trying to lean into what's good for you and trusting yourself and taking risks on yourself, and also being super intentional and aware of the patterns you would go back to. Like you used to be very black and white of like, oh, we've had this, so we might as well keep on going. We're gonna
Right.
drink, so we might as well go hard. We're gonna go to a restaurant, so we might as well eat everything. But then you slowly but surely started making decisions of let's just have some of it, but let's truly enjoy it. If we want it, let's like be conscious of it and let's not just go all the way. And like you said, you enjoy that more and trying to be super conscious and purposeful with your thoughts around it. And that's just like, I know it sounds simple to people, but it does really work. Like highlighting the patterns you're doing before, why you're doing it, and trying to shift your thinking around that. And that is what you've done. And it's working out for you now. So, yeah, no, I don't think you're rambling. I think you highlighted some really good things.
Well, and it feels f- for me, I think the moment that was really telling about what you go through when you get to that space where you're managing, where you get to that space where you're really constantly working in that moment to feel better, and you start to say, okay, no, I am better, was when my sister, I've only told the people in my life, I'm again 32, I have sisters, so my two sisters know, and my husband and a childhood friend, and so four. um and even my husband doesn't really know every single detail, just because it's been something I just haven't wanted to open up with. But
Hmm.
my my sister texted me, and she goes, she's really big. The ironic thing about all of this is my younger sister's a dietitian, and my older sister is a trainer and former model. And I just laugh when I think about it. But she texts me, she just is like, hey, when will you, like, we were talking about everything, and she goes, when will you be like cured?
Hmm.
And I was thinking on that, I was sitting with that. And because we had talked about it, we had talked about before this idea of like prognosis and like when is it done? And I know you had shared a story about a client, and I think it was really about your thought patterns and realizing it's like, no, I don't want to do it. There's other, I'm not going to feel good. This is not the way that I want to live my life, and just changing those thoughts over time. And so when I answered her, I said, I don't really think of it as cured. I
Hmm.
think of it as, that I might have that little voice sometimes rear its ugly little head from time to time. I think there'll be times where I'm really stressed in 10 years when if I'm dealing stuff with a then adult child, and stress is getting me, and I might have that head, I used to be afraid of that voice. Not I used to be afraid of that voice coming back. And I think for me, I I'm a, I'm not afraid of that voice anymore because I know what I'm going to say to it.
Yeah. There's this level of responsibility now with this voice. And some people think the answer is you have to get rid of the voice completely. And
Right.
sometimes people are doing things that's making the voice worse. Like if you're starving yourself all day, you're
Absolutely.
not taking care of yourself, it's going to be really hard for that voice not to be really loud. But even when you do all those things, sometimes there's still that tendency. And people think they have to get rid of it because they have no control over it. And it's like actually
Right.
you can work on making the voice less severe and then also work on how you respond to the voice. There needs to be this offense
Absolutely.
and defense. And something you said to me during the last session, I think it was that we had, and I'm not remembering it word for word, but you said it's okay to label myself or to acknowledge that I can be a bit of an overeater or I have these vulnerabilities. And I don't feel bad about it saying that. It just makes me more aware of those situations so that I can not put myself in a place where I'm gonna overdo it or I know how to respond appropriately. So there's like this identity that you're okay with of knowing that you're a little bit vulnerable to that and knowing how to show up when those things happen.
No, and I think that was for me the point. I, there, I think there are numerous things I could say that have changed, even in varying degrees, that have made this me sitting here and talking to you now possible. But the one thing has been being accepting of my vulnerabilities and saying like, no, it's okay that I have that. Like everyone struggles with something, probably lots of things. We're not a machine. And so acknowledging that I have a problem that has persisted for many years with overeating. I have struggles with, I am not a stick. I am not a size 2. Um, I'm not going to be, nor do I want to be, because that's not my body type. But I want to be healthy, and I want to be strong, and I want to acknowledge what I'm struggling with, and then be okay with not just sitting with it, but then talking about it. I think that's for me where when I started to acknowledge that, that's where the changes happened. And like being okay, like we've talked about, I had a couple of events, and I shared just like past me would get so stressed about this and how I looked, and I would diet, I would do keto, I would do all those things, and binging and purging would come. And I remember there was this one event, and I said, it would be nice to be 5 pounds less or something.
Hmm.
And you had said, would it really make a difference? I mean, truly, would it really? And I'm like, Ash, it would not. It
Yeah.
would not. So why am I going to kill myself to get to that point? Why am I
Yeah,
don't,
it was such a thing of like going to let's like die. I literally was just before this call on a client call with another person who was wanting to lose weight for an event that they had to show up for. And it's like if starving yourself isn't an option, if trying to do keto or whatever crazy thing you want to do for this short-term thing that is going to damage you more in the long term isn't an option, what do you do? And I think for you, you recognize that was a pattern of yours that you fall into and like, we're not going to do this again. A number of times you had urges to do that and you're like, no, we're not going here. But then also when you take away that option of like, no, you can't change your body size. Maybe in the future whatever, with you being healthy and doing whatever it is that's taking care of you, and the body that you have ends up being smaller because of that, cool. But for this event or for this specific thing, worrying about your body weight is not an option. Then how do you show up? And I remember you showing up to those events and like really truly leaning into who you were, and being confident in your own skin. And I thought it was really good for you.
Well, and that's where I'm at. Like, I accepted that I tried really hard in those moments to not just I am accepting myself now in this moment, and but in those moments where I knew I was going to be in front of people that I wanted to make a good impression of or whatever, I was like, you know what? Like, you're going to show them, you're going to look better by feeling better about yourself. And I did. And I think back, it was a Christmas party and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the food. It was accepting to the best of my ability. Of course, that voice rears up, but when I think back, I'm like, no, I really felt good about it, and that made all the difference. And looking back, I'm so grateful I didn't do a 2-week keto thing and binge and
Yeah.
all of it, because I didn't want to do that. I just accepted that that's who I was and at that moment. And if in the future I decide that I'm going to go on a health journey and try to, you know, get my BMI a little bit lower because I want to improve some of my health, health things. I have my own health things that make it that I really do need to be in control and keep myself at a healthy weight,
Mhm.
and be healthy, then that's what I'm going to do. But I'm not going to do it in 2 weeks. I'm not going to do it through keto. I'm not going to binge it. It's going to take time, but for right now, I have to not just accept, but I need to love myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Two things. It has to be sustainable. It's not going to be done in two
right.
weeks. Like if you really do need to make changes, doing something you can only do for 2 weeks is not the right way to do it. But then also you have to love yourself. And I think about you and I think about a lot of other people, but like you're a beautiful person inside and out. And then also on top of that, like that's just the icing on the cake to who you are as this individual who's smart, funny, sharp, can think quickly, has all these things to offer the world, and is caring and compassionate and empathetic. And like to think that you can't be all those things in the body you have right now, just whenever we try to focus on our body like that, it just makes us so much smaller. I do want to shift though, because you reminded me of something else. Something interesting we did was trying to work on routines. Like one thing for you is like eating consistently, eating enough throughout the days. That was like a big thing. And you worked really hard on finding convenient, healthy foods that taste good for you that were readily available. But one thing we did is that we just took exercise like off the table for you because
Yep.
you would try to like walk more in your regular life, but it was this huge source of guilt for you for a while, of, like not moving enough. And I just said like with how much you're trying to change your eating patterns and with alcohol and everything, like let's just like not make exercise a priority right now and then remove that guilt. And then when you're ready, take it back. And I just wanted to say that here because I know people would find that appalling, but like, what do you think of that?
I it it was like this weight. Now again, is it still like for my health? Do I know I need to move my body? Absolutely. But in context, and I know I'm not the only one that deals with this. So when you have children or you're a caregiver, you show up for people and you have to show up a lot.
Hmm.
My time is not always, it's not my time. I wake up every morning at 5:30. I have kids. I have a dogs that need me. I have a husband, and then I have to get everybody out, get to work where I work. I work a traditional 8 to 5, but I'm I do a lot of stuff after hours. Had to go and do some stuff this weekend. So I mean, my job is more than 40 hours a week. And then you get home after getting the kids from aftercare, you get home, you cook dinner. By the time, I sit down and I eat a meal, if I even eat something with my kids or not, eat a meal at the kitchen island while they're eating, trying to get ready then for homework and showers. It's 7 o'clock, and by 8, I'm exhausted. I didn't want to wake up any earlier because I really I want my sleep. I want to feel rested so I can be the best person I can be. And then by 8 o'clock, I'm exhausted. And I noticed, I think when we were really talking about taking exercise off, I was feeling super guilty because I really wanted to exercise. But I really wanted to control and do better with my eating, and not just eating, but my drinking, because in doing this journey, it was, even if I was just having a couple of drinks every other night, alcohol was making me hungry, or it was making me more tired. And then I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't want to label myself as an alcoholic too. So let's just get this under control.
It
Um,
seemed like the food and alcohol was such a big thing. Like I see this, everyone wants to do
absolutely.
everything at once. It's like, let's just do the ones that are going to make such a big
Ab-
difference.
right.
Exercise can come after. And then also on top of that, like I want to point out to people, like you said, you're so busy. You're also, well, you were
Right.
applying to nursing school, like, and also have a
Yep.
job, all these things. It's like, let's just try to be reasonable, like not
Right. Oh,
drinking
I'm
is hard enough.
absolutely, I'm a nut. Like, in doing all of this, the career change, and identifying that what I'm currently doing is not working for me and my family, and wanting something else that I've been thinking and really dialing into for a couple years, everything just has come to a head. And we said, um, and I'm so grateful that you helped to steer me and steered me in that direction of like, let's work on these two things right now. That this is what you can control right now. You can't control all the other stuff. This is what you can control.
Mhm.
Work on getting that. And I think by doing it, it allowed me to put that extra mental effort. You only have so much mental energy for every individual thing you have to focus on.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever going to get 100% of your attention unless something has to stop. And for me, taking that off, not off the table, it's still there, but I guess it's in its little takeaway container for in a couple of, hopefully, maybe this summer. But I'm not even putting that on myself yet, because I
No.
really want to make sure I'm showing up for everybody. And I think the big thing that trying to not worrying about an exercise routine right now, what it did was it helped me kind of repair my relationship a little bit with my husband. We were going through, we had been going through some stress. And I remember I said, every night now we're sitting down, and we're taking an hour to ourselves to watch a movie together, watch a show
Mhm.
together, just be together. And that's when we took exercise off the table, and I allowing myself that intentional time with my husband, and then early, before they went to bed, my kids. My personal life has gotten better. So I'm less stressed just in general,
Yeah, it's almost like
because they
sometimes
needed me.
doing less intentionally
Right,
works better for people. Yeah.
right,
But no, I thought that was really good. But the relationship thing too, that was something that improved as
right.
well. The last thing I think I want to just wrap up with that I ask everyone, but it's always I'm really curious what a client has to say because you everyone that I have on here has usually been through it in some sort of way, but you've really just been through it. What's some advice that you'd give to someone out there struggling right now who doesn't believe themselves, doesn't know if it's possible for them? What would you tell them?
The journey, the you have to first expect it's not going to be this linear path upward towards this supposed cure, right? It's not going to be there's going to be bumps, there's going to be points, because I think most of us have been dealing with this. If we're getting to a point that we're seeking help, we've been dealing with it for a long time. Um, for me, finding out and talking to you that a lot of your clients are my age and older was very like, holy shit. I'm not the only woman, mother, elder millennial, I guess. I don't know. Am I considered an elder? Anyway,
You're
I'm not the
not. You
only,
act like you're
no,
so
I'm not an
old.
elder millennial yet. Um,
No.
I, we're not alone. And I think when accept it's going to be hard. We're not, and we're not alone. Um,
And it's not a linear journey upward. Yeah.
it's not a linear journey. You're going to have struggles, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't start and you shouldn't try. And I went ahead and I just said, no, I'm done. I'm done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to find a way to be able to financially cover it because I need to feel better for myself. And for me, it was, I need to ensure that I'm healthy from everyone around me. I I don't want my condition to turn into something that's going to take me away potentially permanently from my family, because I felt like at that moment I saw my health just plummeting.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't want that anymore.
It really was. I think what helped you make that decision was it was for you and everyone around you to take care of you. Like it just became this
Right.
moment of like we need to make ourselves a priority, and that was the theme throughout all of our coaching. And it's
Absolutely.
interesting you say that, and I forgot to ask your age, when we first started this interview, but I find it so funny how every single person that reaches out to me, well, I shouldn't say every single person, but I say like 90% of people, they feel the need to tell me the number of years they've been struggling and how old they are. And then I always hear people say, do you think it's possible after 5 years? Do you think it's possible after 10 years? Do you think it's possible after 30, 40 years? Like everyone has this story attached to the number that they have been struggling. And everyone seems to think whether the number is 5 or 40, that it's too long. And everyone just thinks they're so old and there's so much time that they've wasted. And it's just crazy because like I was only in bulimia as an adult. I struggled with eating disorders at a younger age too, but I was only in bulimia as an adult for around 4 years. And it was hell. And like I didn't have the 40 years of it. I'm sure that'd be completely different. It is somewhat relevant, but at the same time, it's not. Like, I don't know. It's just no matter how long you've been struggling, you can get out of it. It doesn't necessarily have to take you 40 more years to recover. And there's no age where you're suddenly sort of past a certain amount of time where you can't change. So yeah. And then the thing about you I find funny is you act like you're so old. You're only 3 years older than me. Like you just act like sometimes you're like this old lady, and I'm like, she's my age. I don't. We were in high school together at the same time. I don't know what is going on. But
I,
yeah, you're not an ancient person, and I don't know. You were not beyond help, and anyone else out there thinking that you're definitely not either.
well, it's just funny because when you think about, you think eating disorder and you think this ballet model, dancer, blonde girl who's 15, 16, and she's drinking Diet Cokes and eating Tic Tacs every day. It couldn't possibly
Yeah.
be a 32, 35, 40-year-old woman who w is a size 14 and loves musicals and works and has three dogs. It's just not who you think.
Who's like a
And
functional
I,
lady in society.
right,
Yeah, and who's
exactly.
smart.
And it's funny to say, like, holy shit, I think I've actually hid this from people. Like, I've hid this from people I've lived with. And
Mhm.
they don't know. And if I told them today that this is what I struggled with, would they believe me? But it's never too late. It just, and that's what it's never too late. And eventually, um, we have to start taking care of ourselves, and that's mental, that's physical, and it's never too late, because that, to me, how I feel today on this Monday, besides tired and, normal mom work stuff, I feel hopeful that I have this part of my life open to me again, and that I feel confident that I can continue to overcome pressures, and I don't have to go back to what I used to do. And I think
Mhm.
I can't imagine how liberating that is for someone who's been dealing with it even longer. I mean, you should even be that proudness that we all can experience. It's completely possible.
Yeah. I like the thought you had of like, I don't have to go back to this. Sometimes it's just about the freedom of knowing that you don't have to. I was trying to convey that in my group coaching program. It's like sometimes it's not even about doing anything different. It's just knowing that you can, but you don't have to. You don't have to resort to this. There is another way, and sometimes that's enough to get you out of it. But thank you. Also, I don't know why I didn't know you were into musicals. Like the Les Mis thing, so it was pretty funny. It's cute. So that's awesome. I think it goes
Just
along with
enough,
your personality though. Like you have a very big
just another
personality.
thing.
Mhm.
I I I find that I am kind of like a naturally chaotic person,
Mhm.
and that's has made certain things like meal prepping and all this other this regimented system, like that's, not to go too much into this or take this a different way, but when I was looking at treatment options and I went to that, residential or traditional option that you would probably, I know there's a lot of what we would, you know adolescence, and I'm like, oh, I can't do it. I'm so chaotic. I need something that works for my life, and that's where I think this program and everything we've done together has been so beneficial because it fit in my life. I never thought I would be able to get help for bulimia and binging and purging. I never thought I would be able to get help, and it fit my life. I thought I would be so, that was the other thing. I thought I would be so inconvenient. I would have to travel. I would have to sacrifice, my family would have to sacrifice ultimately financially and with time. But this journey, what I've been able to get out of it has been what I needed. And what I needed was I needed to I needed to heal my heart, my mind before I could heal my body. And I'm doing all of that. And I'm not done, but I have enough. I believe I'm strong enough now that I'm not scared for the future challenges, and I'm not scared that I'm going to go back to what I was. I think if you had asked me this 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I would tell you that I am afraid of what future Jean will do. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of what future me will do because I have the tools.
You're not afraid of yourself. That's a big thing.
No, I'm not afraid of myself anymore. And I think that is really the turning point, is when you aren't afraid of you anymore.
Ooh, that's so powerful. It's a really good thing to end on. But I'm glad I can provide you with that journey too. But thank you for being on here. We'll close it out. But all of you guys listening, goodbye. Never give up on yourself. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you, ma'am.